Good morning, dear participants and guests of the International Philosophical Online Seminar Postscriptum. I am happy to welcome you to our meeting today. This is our last meeting during of this academic year, but maybe is one of the important and inspiring. My brief introduction. The seminar today is taking place immediately after the devastating Russian missile attack on Odessa. And now Odessa under the red alarm again. Nevertheless, we continue our seminar. Today, our organizer today is Svetlana Balinchenko and Institute of Philosophy. Thank you so much. And as always, Department of Philosophy of Odessa National University is organizing this seminar with the Department of Philosophy of Kryvyi Rih State Pedagogical University. It is the website of the Pedagogical University that all the information and all the video recordings of our previous meeting are posted. Here you will also find the recording of today's seminar. Today's seminar is being held in the collaboration with the Department of History of Foreign Philosophy, Institute of Philosophy of the National Academy of Science of Ukraine. I am happy to open this collaboration. This is already our second meeting after the inspiring seminar with Professor Christoph Lumer, who visited Odessa at this dangerous time, and we organized it together with the Department of History of Foreign Philosophy, Institute of Philosophy of the National Academy of Science, together this previous meeting. But it's my pleasure that we can to continue our collaboration. Today, our speaker is Professor Yaroslav Lyubiviy, Institute of Philosophy of the National Academy of Science of Ukraine, and seminar title, Crisis of Values in the Age of Civilizational Transformation. Please, you are welcome, Yaroslav.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, I'll take about the crisis of values in the age of civilization transformation. Several words about situation in our world. Today, society is currently in the situation of cardinal crisis of values, which is leading in the epochal civilizational transformation, accompanied by an ecological, economical, and global military political crisis. The manifestation of the latter being the military aggression of the axis of evil against Ukraine. We distinguish the following stages of the emergence of development of civilization: and cognitive revolution, agrarian revolution, axial age, modernity and industrialization, current transformation. More cognitive revolution occurred about 70,000 years ago, such as says Yuval Noah Harari. Men began to use general concepts and their symbolic designation to make a choice of life values, life strategies, and the methods of his own activity. The second was the agrarian revolution, or Neolithic revolution, which took place 10,000 years ago. At this time, man could produce food and provide himself with livelihood. After the agrarian revolution, in the 4th, 3rd millennium before Christian, civilization arose. Civilization arose only in this time, and then some stages of its transformation. The first civilization transformation associated with the development of axial time by Karl Jaspers, 5th century before Christian. Man actualized reflective values, in particular of form of several institutions: morality, law, philosophy, science, monotheistic religion, political relations. Their spheres are regulated by reflective values. It appears in reflection. What is reflection? I can control my own thought and my own action. This is reflection. The next stage is civilization transition of industrial revolution and modernity. At this time, modern science and technology were development. Appears modern identity, such modern identity. Francis Fukuyama tells about this. Began the religion regulation of people's behavior was replaced by values. It was not religious regulation, and more it began to regulation by values. And at last, current civilizational transformation, what has happened now. Leading technology of it is renewable energy, is a more important stage of this transition. The organizational system is distributional capitalism by Jeremy Rifkin. In social system is network society, and also large technological corporations. Please, the next. Thank you. Values as an objective regulator of socio-ecological system. Avoiding ecological catastrophe was and restoring ecological resources is the most important task of modern civilization transformation. And it is always a condition for the survival of mankind. Mankind cannot survive without this renewable energy. In other side, it will be ecological catastrophe. And I prolong my thought. All biological organisms have an important adaptive life function, evaluation. We can say about values, and values is a common idea, and our evaluation is empirical process of everyday life. Life, you said, can be imagined as a self-replicated information processing system or calculative system. The evaluating process is genetically embedded in the survival instinct, and the instinct was a continuation of the existence of one's own population of high animal and man. This is manifested itself as a natural process of self-regulation of vital activity based on universal feedback. I use the population not in demographical, but in sociobiological, a sociobiological term, population of the man and population of the animal also. It is also the population. Feedback, this is such things that I reflect that I am doing and correct my action. This is feedback by the help of which I can correct my activity. This is a feedback. This is feedback in the informational system also function, this feedback. In addition of the behavior of living beings, man and animal includes mechanism of coordination their activity. This is also important informational process of the survival of this population as a whole. Social values that regulate the quality and effectiveness of relationship in society are intrinsic values, and at the same time, it may be instrumental values as a tool for realizing the basic value of adaptive survival. This is the most important survival of biological being, of man, and so on. In addition to the basic and instrumental values, it is necessary to distinguish absolute, spiritual, transcendental values which unites people. And among them, we can distinguish moral, aesthetic, religious values. They are very important to implement social strategies and programs as well to improve social relations. And I impress to this word strategies. It is very important for us now. It is necessary to distinguish two informal processes that firstly is basic for self-preservation of complex systems by metabolism, and those that secondly contribute to the self-regulation in competitive interaction with other systems. There are two types of informational process. First of them is promote the stability of biological system, and the second promote interaction among systems in their competition for survival. There are two levels of this process. At the level of person and the human population, the first group of information processes is the foundation of basic survival values. And the second group is instrumental and spiritual values that increase the effectiveness of adaptive and creative interaction between people in their communities. To model informational interactions in the process of self-organization, evolutionary process of the world, one can use informational regularity that manifests themselves in the work of artificial intelligence. The regularities are similar for the natural selection in the present process of evolution of all complex systems, which consist in automated code generation by created machine learning algorithm. This is very interesting comparison. At first is informational regularities in biological systems, which are similar to the process of machine learning algorithm, which generate code. And all these two processes produce strategies. This is very important for the understanding of nature of values. Values are also strategies of our behavior. And strategies are elaborated by artificial intellect, and strategies are provided by biological system for their survival. I compare this process, it very interesting analogy of this process. Machine learning test processes are improved by algorithm based on real feedback. I already said about this. When informational feedback is a model of natural process of monitoring situation in the environment and in the evaluation by biological and social systems. This strategy is a mean of evaluation of our action. And this is not conscious, is unconscious and a little conscious process. The primary code of the universe is the form of the set of constants. These constants are physical or chemical. This constant realize the order in the universe. Constant and this contains the possibility of emergence of informational intelligent systems. Information intelligent systems is animals, man, and artificial intellect. This reflects the evolutionary program of the universe and as a self-regulation circuit actively influence in the course of this evolution. This is very deep thought that these processes are similar. For a more effective implementation of the basic values of survival, it is important to develop appropriate social, cultural, moral, and spiritual values that are consolidated productive interaction between members of society or social interaction based on political alliance and suppression of individual freedoms. In democratic countries, this is consolidated productive interaction between members of society, and in the authoritarian and totalitarian countries, it is social interaction based on political violence and suppression of individual freedom. Some words about the theory of values. Professor Sommer believes that values should be appreciated according to how they manifest themselves in the human empirical practical activity. This is, values are not general notion or not a metaphysical entity, but empirical fact. Value we think, every man thinks that it is metaphysical entity, and really it is, from the point of science, it is empirical fact of our behavior and of our perception and of our affection, evaluation. This is empirical fact, empirical action. In the empirical practical activity of a person, a number of specific evaluation procedures are observed, which is important for carry out the activity and correcting it in event of an observed deviation for its model goal. When some deviation from the process, it correct by the help of evaluation. This is the main thought of this idea. Empirically, a person is not often in his own activity constantly deal with evaluation processes that are emotion in nature and do not require a high organized level of awareness, not full consciousness. Such an evaluation is not a belief in metaphysical entities, but real empirical process. I already underline this. In everyday situation, a person can believe is the reality of these metaphysical entities values as such. In everyday our life, we think that these metaphysical entities are real, but they are only empirical fact of process of evaluation. This is point of view of Professor Zomer. And also Professor Zomer considered that values are not something that preceded evaluation, although they are a structuring principle of morality. They are devoting of substantiality and are subjective attribute of individual objects. And similar to the Sommer, Yuval Noah Harari believes that the examples that such values as human rights are also fictions. These fictions are useful in order to organize interaction between individuals. They are very useful. The idea that to rely on values and instead of notion of fictions, I propose to use notion virtual reality, which occupies approximately the semantic niche of the concept of fiction. It's more modern terms, the virtual reality. I prefer instead of term fiction. Professor Zomer considered that idea that we can rely on values appears in the 19th century. In the era of secular worldview was formed alongside a religious one. That is informed, unlike religion, which focused on human guilt, values acquiring a positive attitude and context. Religion says, you are guilty. This is negative. We are guilty. This is not very good for our consciousness. But the new conception, they are our values. This is positive attitude in this conception, of these conceptions. People values may different depends in their natural inclinations, education, age, social status, and income level. Values permit all spheres of life, and they regulate spheres of morality, economics, politics, religion, education, souls. But they have a common mission to promote the survival and development of human population. I want to stress that survival in modern society is impossible without development of society and competition with other societies in the development, in the new technologies and the social structure. If we have better social structure, we will have the better technology and good life. However, now it is civilization transformation, is acute civilization transformation and global military political crisis. The value of freedom and security come to the fore, to the first place, I'm sorry. In a civilized liberal democratic society, highly moral social relations oriented towards effective interaction between individuals which contribute to the well-being of the majority of society. In contrast, in the authoritarian and totalitarian societies, the power of the ruling elite based on political violence suppressed the freedom of human political activities, lowers the standards of living in order to manipulate them. If living standards were very high, they want to be free, meant to want to be free. For the surviving of humanity during the modern civilization transformation, it is necessary to rethink and actualize the strategic values of human and social development. I stress this word, strategy. Elaboration of strategy is the value. And man must select a new value and new strategy of its development. Important technologies innovation that should provide solution is the renewable energy by Jeremy Rifkin, artificial intelligence. No, for example, Mark Tegmark. The main types of values I want to prefer. However, without minimum values of survival, physical safety, material stability, health, social security, no society can exist. However, in the understanding and practical interpretation of other values of development, which also forms the basis of human and social life, freedom, equality, justice, dignity, they may be significant, different in liberal, democratic, and totalitarian societies. The first terminal of final values, peculiar ideal models in which the consciousness of the individual is oriented. This happiness, well-being, harmony, peace. This is final values, is a final idea of the members of society, in other words. The society proclaims some method of achievement of this situation, but the situation may lead to the populist significant. Spiritual values, love, compassion, faith, creativity, contribute to the development of a person's human qualities and connection with other people in the integrity of the existence of the universe. It has also the general philosophical sense, spiritual values. The moral person must work on himself, the deeper contact and interaction he can establish with other people in the process of co-creation. The attractive intention power of spiritual relationship contribute to the solution of complex technological, economic, social, and environmental problems. Constructing friendly and trusting relationship between individuals is a highly effective self-management of the most important way to solve complex technological and so communicative and discursive issues. The real absolute value, I stress this word, absolute value of man and society is survival of human population. The modern civilization transformation gives humanity a chance to survive if these absolute values are extended not only in one's own society, state, nation, people, but also in the global community. We must to extend these values, these absolute values, not in our country, but in the global community. But this is difficult in modern situation, in modern cultural situation of cultural and value crisis. However, the absolute values for everyday consciousness requires a social, cultural, and moral form of expression. In a holistic system of values, as regulators of human activity, certain values such as justice can manifest themselves in a different function, basic, instrumental, spiritual, absolute. There are many values, but we must appeal to these values depending of the social, situational, and context. Basic and instrumental values also have a pragmatic meaning, according to which it is necessary to economically and practically use known renewable natural energy for the most complete realization of values. For the human physical intellectual resources for the most complete realization of values. Also, we can express identity values by Francis Fukuyama. They are also important when the entire other system of values is perceived through the features of local, group, family, national, and global identity. The identity may be various. In addition, identity is a social mechanism and tool for an individual adaptation and creative activity in the world together with other individuals which share their values. Now, some words about the restructuring of values in the situation of civilizational transformation. The main context of development during the period of civilizational transformation is a competition of lifestyles, values, and ways of building social institutions. Different societies are in competition of lifestyles of their lifestyles and values. And those values will be assumed, which will conquer in this competition. In the relative peaceful time of the end of history, the main things were material values and resources that ensure the economic, environmental, cultural, and educational development of man. Therefore, the role and the importance of spiritual values is in situation of uncertainty in the situation of modern civilizational transformation. In this situation, there are very important strategic values of survival and development to show resilience and pragmatically flexibilities. And now I tell about the main trends in the development of value system of societies during the period of civilization transformation. There are the real trends now. Tendencies in the development of value system of societies during the period of civilization transformation. There are the main content of this process, the overcoming poverty in the countries of global south, which is complicated by the need to save the planet ecology through the introducing of renewable energy. To overcome poverty in the countries of global south, under the condition of introducing the renewable energy. I repeat this thought. And this is very complex problem now in the confrontation between democracy and totalitarian countries now. The United States is losing out to China in economic competition, in trade growth, and influence over the countries of the global south. The USA has reached the limit of the development, while China is still on the rise. China produces cheap technologies and goods to solve the main global problems, overcoming poverty, combined with the introducing of environmentally friendly renewable energy. China is monopolism of cheap technologies for the implementation of renewable energy. But China is a totalitarian, not strictly, not precisely totalitarian. I think it is authoritarian country, and it has a chance to come to democracy as Taiwan. India will partially replace China in the production of mass consumer goods. Europe is at a stage of economic stagnation, but it has all the opportunity to accelerate development through the militarization of society and the development of modern technologies. It is the Europe which balance the confrontation between democratic and authoritarian values which take place. Ukraine is becoming a powerful subject of civilizational development. And now, at the end of my lecture, I turn to the reasons for the war against Ukraine, for the reasons of the war of acts of evil against Ukraine. The analysis of the current global crisis should also include an understanding of the reason of the evil, of the acts of evil war against Ukraine, namely Ukraine's example of democratic political development, which is harmful for the population of the declining empire, and the latter's desire to join to the European Union and NATO. Russia's technologies lag behind countries of the world is a result of degrading social relation. In addition, most technologies achievements were not development by this country, but borrowed or stolen through the industrial espionage from the other countries. Next point. The desire to seize the territory of Ukraine with its rich natural, climatic, and human resources. Next, the desire to appropriate the history of Ukraine, including the baptism in 988, just as, for example, the history of Novgorod was appropriated by destroying it. The attempt to cite important geopolitical territories of Ukraine before the introduction of renewable energy makes the economy industry of this country that of the oil and gas unprofitable. The era of oil and gas is finished. And this federation is in hurry to capture territory before renewable energy will be the main energy in the world. The plan to increase military political pressure and weakens the European countries, weakens the European countries during a geopolitical and economic service to China. The imperial policy of aggression, of constant conquest and absorption of resources of colonized countries without bearing legal responsibility for this. This country want to avoid responsibility for this aggression. And the facility of population of this country in an inorganic nature of society of this country. And the last, the implementation of China's strategy to cite world domination. Please, the conclusion, the last. Now we set about the problem of values that are fundamental for human survival. The values is a strategy of our survival, but the strategy is the product of cosmic evolution and is produced also by artificial system. And we can to model the problem of values, and sociology can mathematically calculate these values of the people in one or another country. And this is very important, the problem that it is need for the renewable of value system, of renewable value system in the world. And the role of absolute and spiritual values are at the first place. And at finish, it is renewal of values, of European values, is very important in the revival of mankind. Thank you for your attention. Some questions.
Thank you so much, dear Professor Yaroslav Lyubiviy, for your inspired and very interesting and brilliant presentation. Let's start our discussion. Questions, comments. Please, Larisa Karachevtseva.
Thank you very much, first of all, for so rich presentation. I really enjoy your phenomenology of values. It was very informative. At the same time, I am pretty critical about your major trends. Major trends in value development. I mean, you mentioned China, India, the role of Ukraine, etc. So, but my question is, my three questions are different. I would like to articulate them. So, first of all, I would like to know about your view on conflicting basic values. For example, we talk about civilizational conflict between Palestine and Israel, and it leads on a very conflicting basic values. For instance, for world, for European society, for Western society, for Ukrainian society, for what we call the Western world and our values, we very much prioritize human being, the value of human being, the value of human life. But nothing like that we see in, for instance, in Hamas ideology. Yes, so I won't, say that Hamas in Palestine is totally 100% the same, but we see such a picture that human value is not prioritized everywhere. And I would like to know your vision, your thoughts about these conflicting basic values. This is first question. I have three of them. If you want to put down some of them, it's better to do because but I may repeat all of them just shortly at the end. So the second point,
Larissa, excuse me, maybe one question, please.
Yes, okay. So I will stop there. It's if you need repetition, if you need me to say it in Ukrainian, please do it. Most of us are not native speakers, so I would thank you and thank you for stopping me.
Basic values is the basic of survival, but we said also about the absolute values. I think that it is survival of global community. This is the main value. This is absolute value of our time. And we see that it is a crisis of values, and our task of the philosophers, of the humanitarians to work in this field. Thank you.
Other questions from Larissa? Is it possible to continue your session of questions? Larissa. And after that, Chris.
Thank you very much. I will be shorter. So my second question concerns your distinction of intrinsic and instrumental values. Intrinsic, which is embedded in the nature of universe, nature, and instrumental, which is instrumental. Actually, this is action to how to rationalize our. So it's a very popular topic in ecological, in environmental philosophy. Especially, it's a big tension there. For instance, radical ecology thinks that nature, for instance, insects has value, and insects may dictate what human should do or should not do. So this is an intrinsic right of insects, of animals, of earth, etc., etc. And there is one question: what do you think about delegating such amount of value power to non-human world? This is question number one. And question number two, which is very much connected. I'm sorry for being so talkative. What about delegating such amount of value power to artificial intelligence and to machine. What do you think? Are machines moral agents or not? So what do you think about this? Thank you very much.
There are very complicated answer, and I answer more simpler. The main idea of my lecture is that artificial intelligence produce strategies of behavior of this system. And values, I want to say that values are analogous, are similar to this process. In the process of self-organization of all complex systems in the universe. In this sense, values have the objective character of the evolution in the process of evolution of the universe.
Thank you. Larissa, do you have any questions? And be free, please, with your comments. You know, our seminar, it's not only question, answer, it's a space of discussion and new vision, please. And repeat your question.
Thank you for your questions, but I think I need to give some floor to other participants.
Yeah.
It's just fair. Thank you very much.
I listened about 3 questions, but you... Thanks a lot. Professor Christoph Lumer, and before his questions, I would like to say hello and many greetings for your visit to Odessa, for your seminar, for your inspiration for us. Thanks a lot, Christoph, your questions, your comments.
Thank you, Inna. So it was mainly your task, what you have done there for hospitaling me. So no, thank you very much to Professor Lyubiviy for his inspiring talk. I really admired it. I think the analysis you gave at the end of your talk of the sources of the conflict are quite exact. I have a question mainly regarding the theoretical part of your talk that is specifically on the ontological status of value. So you were speaking about, on the one hand, that values develop. They are not given in a certain sense, as you said. So this is an anti-objectivist position, I think. They develop, and I would completely agree, during history in evolution. But on the other hand, you're speaking about values as substantives like freedom and so on. And so that sounds a little bit more objectivistic. So I would like to ask you about the foundations of it and the exact ontological status. So for giving you an inspiration from which direction I was thinking about these things, I think that these objectivist values, which are expressed with these substantives like freedom, survival, and so on, generally only are an abbreviate way of speaking about valuing something. So the thing like peace or freedom and so on, these are certain states or events which have value, which can be evaluated, so which are the object of our evaluation. So in the end, this would be a quite subjectivist approach, so that we are always the sources of the value. There are no values in the world without any subjects who are evaluating something. And if you have this kind of approach, you can also introduce hierarchies of values, because certain things are more important for getting other things which are valuable for you realized. So this would be instrumental justifications. And with this, you can also arrive at a certain of hierarchizing certain actions which are more important and so on. Whereas I think the usual abstract, let's say, hierarchies for instance, freedom is before economic development, is or ranks higher before over economic development, and so on. Maybe they may not that much sense because, as I said, these are only certain ways of having value. And so to bring it to the point, the question is how you see that. How do you come, for instance, to the hierarchy you proposed in your talk and the differentiation between absolute and relative values and so on? So what stands behind these kinds of criteria and the justification of the system and so on? Okay.
I consider that values are objective in their nature, but it has a subjective existence in human consciousness. This is the main idea. And I think that we only partly aware the objective sense of our action, and there is only a sphere of regulation, and regulation became more full and more fuller and fuller in our life. This is very important kind of these values, that absolute values may be objective, and it is the subjective mean of this awareness. And ontological source of the values is such that we can say the evaluation is objective process, objective process of survival of biological system. And in another side, this have such meaning, such very important meaning.
May I ask a question regarding this answer? So thank you very much for your answer to my question. My question to what you said would be then, how do you see that survival has a certain value? For instance, we could say with individuals, survival sometimes does not have a value if the life which people expect is so negative. So it would be better for them to die. And so, but this relies on subjective values like what people can experience and so on. And so the question here remains, if you are speaking of objective values, where do these values come from? How can we recognize them? And how do they come into our mind? So this is always a question to theories about objective values. And so the question would regarding these many sub-questions, our access to them, how do they come into the world, what reality do they have, and so on.
I consider that survival of man is objective process of the being. It is of the objective process of the being. And we can regulate this process by our subjective efforts, We can regulate this process, and we cannot aware it in full. Value is symbolic representation of this objective process of our self-regulation. And this self-regulation is the program, informational program of this process, is similar to the process of artificial intellect. And this is a result of common process of self-regulation of the being. And elaboration of strategies is a process of emergence and function of values in this same.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Any comments? Maybe I would like to continue the question of Christoph about ontological status of values and theoretical background. My questions deals with your favorite or basic theories of values that were very useful for elaboration of your personal position. What are the basic theories of values are the most relevant for your approach to this topic?
I consider that basic values dependent, realized by the instrumental, by the help of instrumental values, But in various contexts, one is the same value, for example, justice, maybe the basic, maybe the absolute, and maybe the instrumental value in various contexts. And we cannot build the general system of values similar to the Hegelian system of logic. We cannot, they built in linear mood, because it is very multi-dimensional problem of the value, very such as multi-dimensional problem is the functioning of society and of our consciousness.
Thank you so much. And my second question is, if it's possible, global transformation and system of values. This relation really led to objectivistic, micro-objectivistic types of the values and macro level of understanding of the values. And tell me, please, do you involve the idea of personality, personal values, subjectivity, this general global transformation of this sphere, subjectivity, such we said, for example, subjectness very often. And what do you think about this level of values, especially in the framework of the global transformation? There are many discussions about individual values, personal values, and so on. But this framework, global transformation, global crisis, radical changes of our civilization. What do you think about this correlation? Thank you.
This is a problem of deepness of the understanding of real values of every person. Person may not fully understand his values in his life. He may don't see strategy of his life, the strategy, the final aim of his life, the main aim of his life, the survival of the population of the global population, and his own children, and so on. And this is the main value of the living of the people. And man maybe not see his strategy and the main task of the philosophers to help to the man to realize his absolute values, to help to realize him in his subjectivity. But he may be under power of population ideology, populism ideology. And this is very important to develop man's understanding in this way. And to understand for man, he is to understand his real values in the real practical activity, and he must to acquire his vital experience, and during this vital experience, the process of acquiring of this vital experience, he may evaluate his values more precise.
Mhm. Thank you. And we have a question in the chat, in our chat, from Ilya Moskvin, graduate of Department of Philosophy, Odessa University. Question: if I understand correctly, values have an objective reality. How would you say what is the foundation of these values? What actualizes them? How you understand the ontology? Maybe it's some question that was raised by Professor Christoph Luhmann, but in another manner. Thanks.
I understand this ontology similar to John Dewey. He said that metaphysics is effects, not only effects of soul consciousness, but he considered that there is maybe natural metaphysics founded on the natural sciences, as this is real metaphysics, which make issues of the natural sciences. And is this real? This is generalization of empirical data of our phenomenological experience. Yes.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Maybe I don't see.
Yaroslav?
Maybe, yeah.
I have a question. Maybe it would be interesting even to start a sort of discussion, because I'm interested not only in the opinion of Professor Yaroslav Lyubiviy, but opinions of other participants on the transformations and changes in values, especially spiritual and instrumental ones, during the war. For in my opinion, there can be traced some changes, some shifts in, for instance, in compassion as a spiritual value, or in justice in its instrumental meaning, or as an essentially contested concept. But it would be interesting to hear your opinion on this. What shifts, changes, and transformations in spiritual and instrumental values could you mention during the war?
During the war, there is not so big significance of material values. It is growing the role of spiritual values and instrumental values, but we must not forget about the pragmatic aspect of this process, because we need the resources for the war. And this is very important. We need the resources, material, armament, some military resources in this war. And that's why, but consolidation society is possible only under the conditions of realizing spiritual and absolute values of the nation. They must actualize in this situation.
Thank you, Svetlana, for invitation to the open discussion. We usually have such kind of discussion at the time of our seminar concerning to the topic and presentation. Please, if you have point of view this.
And I mean, for instance, compassion, it stops being a universal. It's quite difficult to feel compassion to the enemy, for instance. And for me, it's a signal of some value shift. But what do you think of it?
My point of view, very briefly, my observation maybe, first of all, we have to understand what are really objective values and subjective, because usually before war, before dangerous situation with our basic condition of existence, usually we didn't understand this. We usually think about values, about stereotypes, about worldview, some scheme, about ideological construction. And first of all, if we are philosophers, if we deals with some discourse and some styles of discourse, we have to revise this basic background and remove. It's impossible, really, from point of view phenomenology, from point of view of hermeneutic, to be outside of our prejudices, basic prejudices. But first of all, we have to revise our, maybe how to some supermarket of values, our personal. What are really true, or some maybe authentic values, what are ideological construction and ideological monsters. And I would like my opinion and my training at the time of the war, try to remove this zoo, maybe how to tell more example, some garden, dangerous garden of this brutal animals with the name of values that really have to be removed from our mind. It's my basic mechanism of the understanding what we have to do. If we are not involved directly in the army, we are helping to as volunteers, but at the same time, we have to revise our personal background.
I also think that there are very important values of identity. This war is for identity of Ukrainian nation. It is very important for us, the identity values. And we understand the global values through the prisms of the values of identity of our, because the enemy want to destroy our identity. to kill all of us, or not, if not to kill, but to send to the war against other people. And we know that if we not to be very strong, we will disappear. We will disappear. And this is motive to struggle us for our identity and defense our country, defense of the European values, human values of our country and of the people of the world.
And I thank you so much. In the chat, Larissa raised hand. Yaroslav Pasikov, maybe I didn't.
There was a
see
question.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you very much, Professor, for your interesting presentation. In this context, it's very interesting for me as the role of theoretical model of basis human values. In this context, it's very interesting for me the concept of Engelhardt. The role of post-materialistic values, the values of self-impression. It's very interesting for me in the context of modernization, which way the values of self-impression, post-materialistic values in the context of Ronald Engelhardt, it's can be influenced on the process of modernization of our society. And also, it's very interesting for me the role of traditional values in the context of modernization. And summarize, it's very interesting for me, on the one hand, which way theoretical concept of Engelhardt, it's very interesting for you as a philosophy. And the second question connected with the role of traditional values in the context of modernization. Thank you very much indeed.
I think that among the traditional values are some absolute values and some terminal values that exist only short time. And we can reduce these terminal values and to return to the absolute values, the survival of our people, the survival of global activity, of global mankind. And Ukraine now in the epicenter of this problem, and this problem will be solved only by European society, who will conquer in this opposition between USA and China. The role of Europe is the most important.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All participants are welcome to discussion, to comments.
Excuse me, can I ask not a question, not a question, but a reply?
Yeah, it's.
Thank you, thank you very much. It is very good that you raised the topic of values. This topic is very relevant and important, especially during social transformations. In my opinion, the language problem is given excessive importance during the Russian-Ukrainian confrontation, and the importance of the value system is underestimated. Of course, language and values are interconnected, but they are not identical. At first, I was surprised why Trump and his team reproduce Russian narratives regarding Russian speakers in Ukraine? Why do they ignore values? Then I realized that Trump's team deep down does not believe in the values of freedom, democracy, human rights. That for them it is an empty phrase. They think of international politics as a kind of business. Trump's favorite word is deal. What to do when even the citadel of Western civilization begins to turn away from the values of freedom, democracy, human rights? Although I am engaged in the philosophy of history, I do not think that everything in the world is historical. Paradoxically, not everything in history itself is historical. I believe that in history, in the human world in general, there are transcendental values. And in the values of freedom, democracy, human rights, there is a transcendental dimensions. If some rarely professes these values, he must adhere to them regardless of the benefit, success, needs of the moment. To profess freedom, democracy, human rights, when everyone around says that they profess them. This is simple. One must hold the banner of these values when the whole world turns away from them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. It's necessary to express your attitude that are necessary, obligatory, and very important for us. Thank you, Professor Alexander Yeremenko. Any questions, comment, and personal point of view about this important topic?
You are welcome, Pani Larissa.
Larissa,
thank you very much. Thank you very much. Actually, I want to contribute to discussion. It was a very interesting question, which I start to answer for myself. A question raised by Svetlana Balinchenko about shifts in our perception of values during Russo-Ukrainian war. Actually, what came to my mind first is a difference in our evaluation of death. So it seems to me right now we have much more nuanced attitude to the value of death. I mean, peaceful death, non-violent death, regarding our circumstances. So, dignity of death, regarding what we see, what our soldiers experienced on the frontier line. So I would like to actually continue with this point. Thank you. This is my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I am waiting, maybe. Thank you so much, all of participants of our seminar today. I understand the summer is now, but it's a time for the vacation and for our new investigation, new ideas, and this important and very inspired and discussive topic, we have to revise again at the time of our summertime, and we can continue this important talking about system of values in different ways. Professor Yaroslav Lyubiviy proposed for us a very good structured description of different types of the values. It's a really very good heuristic scheme for our personal understanding. Objective, subjective, instrumental, terminal, and many other types of values we have keep in the mind for our future philosophical investigation of this topic, because there are many public talk, and forgive me my not French but my bad English, bullshit about values. How many such kind of talking that can maybe remove values from the center of philosophical investigation. We can come to conclusion all opinion are expressed. There are many ideas. It's not necessary to continue. No, maybe it's only beginning of this kind of investigation. Maybe, especially at the situation, not only Russia-Ukrainian war, but these intensive global conflicts in that we involved now. Thank you very much for your attention. Maybe new comments before our final say, see you soon.
My thankful for the colleague, Professor Lumer, and organizer of this seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yaroslav. Thank you. And really, see you soon. It's my desire to see you again at the time of our meeting with your personal issues, personal questions, personal investigation. And I suppose we will start from the beginning of our academic year, from the September, maybe October, but I hope we have to start September. Please, if you have a proposition for your personal presentation, write me and we will discuss it. And I would like to tell thank you very much again for collaboration with the Institute of Philosophy, for long time collaboration with the Department of Philosophy of Kryvyi Rih Pedagogical University, especially Professor Yaroslav Shramko, Elena Mishalova, Nadia Kazachenko, and my personal greeting to Svetlana Balinchenko. Thank you so much. Be healthy, and have a nice summer.